All right, hey there. So it's now 4:30. I'm going to do one more vlog. This one is really just to update people on my novels. So I think I have, 17 novels published. I don't have every title memorized or anything like that. I do know them. It's somewhere in my cortex, but I don't really want to rack my brain to be able to spout it out, rot it. I've written down, I can read off paper. It's a lot easier and less of a waste of time. All right, so just to go through them, to go through them, then I'll get to the more significant point of this vlog. Um, my novels start off as The Mind of a Nigger. That's book 1, 2, and 3. That's not my first writings ever. The first titled writings that I ever had was actually called Jamaica Breeze, and Gruber. What's her name? Anne Gruber, something Gruber. Anyway, Gruber. She's an English professor, English teacher at Bishopmore High School when I was in senior year. She's the one that really got to read that. I really wrote that, in part for her, but also for me. I mean, very attractive Caucasian woman. Not, wow, I would have slew her, rotted, not joking. Anyway, and I even tried not joking. But anyway, that was my reverse pedophilic moment. She was definitely interested in something, but I was definitely interested in sex. Rotted. I've definitely heard stories of things like this, where like a high schooler, a boy high schooler gets, some hot woman teacher. So who knows? Maybe it'll happen before she dies. Rotted. Hopefully before she becomes a gilf. Anyway, I'm not trying to disrespect her. But the point is, so I think partly because she was a very attractive woman, I took my time to really write the best I could right at that moment. There's no doubt about it. I know that was a very important part of it. Not that I didn't, try to write well for the other professors like Bruce Sawpaw or Tannenbaum. I wrote some interesting stuff for them too. Like with Bruce Sawpaw, I wrote one about a woman sitting on a toilet, getting piss on her butt and getting a venereal disease. That was one of the most memorable ones. And I seemed to like it on some level. It was a little scientific or medical based too, although not really accurate of what we know now, that urine doesn't really spread disease. You're really unlikely to get disease from touching urine, to be quite honest. I didn't really know that at the time, but it was something that I was kind of concerned about and questioned. I wasn't really like anxious about, but I definitely questioned. So anyway, there are other things I've written before I wrote these novels, but by the time I got to really publishing novels through Janway Publishing Company, I really, knew I should really start with Nigger, start with The Mind of a Nigger. I wasn't clear how much of a nigger I am, but I knew that there's no way out of that group for me. And as a result, that was what I settled on and knew I should title my novels. And subsequently, I also realized that no one has really done that in this form. I'm pretty sure that's true. I've checked as much as I could, in an efficient way. I do know a lot of times what happens afterwards is people see the idea, and then all these other ideas pop up from other people, and they try to describe it as their novel idea. And for me, I'm pretty sure this ends up being a novel idea, not just for me, but for all of humanity, although it be a simple one. So anyway, my point is, after that, I kept writing, and I ventured off from, the title Nigger to other titles that made sense to me, such as Waiting for Death, Book 5, Studying for Step 3. What else do I have? Conversations with Sarah, Sex with Lydia, which is Book 12. There's All Races of the Humans on Earth. What else do I have? I'm not the blackest. Then I have I'm not the whitest. And I have I'm brown. I'm Asian. I'm white, Caucasian. I have some others. So I've gone up to, I think, 17 or 13 or something like that. I have so many books on that I have to, on my notebook that I have to to get to and edit, you know, and that is really what this vlog is more about. So I definitely have to, have those waiting for me. I'm planning to get to those as soon as possible to get those out too. But, those, so what I think the last one that I put out might be this is what I wanted to do, and this is what I always want to do, something like that. So they're all, I have those titles out there, but I will get to the other ones. But anyway, my point is, I just wanted to clarify, I guess, my editing process. I'm really a writer. There's no doubt about that. I mean, am I an author? I guess so, sure. Yeah, I mean, I am an author on some level, but really I'm a writer. I write what I know. I write what I learn. I write what I understand. I integrate my ideas, my points, my philosophies, my thoughts, my thinking, my family, and my interactions. So I integrate all of these things, and it's in my writing. So yes, I mean, from there, I definitely am an author. I am a physician. There's no doubt about that. It took me time after medical school to realize that I really am a doctor and a physician, and that I really do know things that other people just don't know so well. And the people who do know it well are really doctors and physicians and surgeons and some other scientists. So, who study humanity. And I guess maybe some, I don't know about the priests so far. The priests, yeah, they're lacking in many ways in things that I would not have been aware of before really college and medical school. But anyway, not that they're stupid, it's just maybe they're just focused on God and love, compassion, which aren't horrible things, but I've definitely realized those are only 3 things of life, which there's billions and billions and seemingly infinite things of life. The seemingly infinite I really got from this guy at the Apple store who said that, and I was like, wow, that's a great phrase. Yeah, it's seemingly infinite till we count it and it becomes finite. Oh, God, no, yeah, I guess infinite really does exist. It might as well. For me, I guess, the more perfect way, not that it's seemingly infinite, because I know it's not infinite, really, most of the time or all of the time. It's really that it approximates infinity. So that's what I would say. So, yeah. But anyway, it took me some time to get to that one. Anyway, but my point is that, so, with this editing process, when I started off, I wasn't really sure. Do I need to perfect it grammatically the way, other people would want it? Whether they be Caucasian or Negroid or Congoid or Mongoloid or Australoid or Capoid? Or do I, just want to, maintain the content as it is in its purest form as my thoughts in writing, a timeline and chronology of my thoughts in writing? And I realized, I really should do the latter, which is, just keep it in its purest form and know that every edit is going to decrease value because the people who really want to know me just won't be able to undo those edits. It won't be so easy. And the people who can, great, but it ends being a very small and select few. Somewhere in London, somewhere in Boston, somewhere in Toronto, and maybe somebody in Kingston. So, and maybe a German. But ultimately, so what I really ended up doing, the first book I really edited more than the others. Not lots, I didn't delete much of anything. It's not that the substance is missing, it's just that, word choice, diction was, changed, was, adjusted, by me. I'd be like, well, I prefer this word, well, I prefer that word. I went through that process, which I used to do more in high school. And I kind of got over it during college when I realized it wasn't making the difference. Just put it down, it's sufficient, and it gets to the point, and keep going. And then was even less in medical school where I didn't have time for that much diction. So, anyway, my point is, my editing process now is really cursory, and all I do is correct any glaring typos that I know were typos, or that, that were, typos. Especially when they cause confusion that I don't want. Certain confusion. Confusion is real. I'm not trying to deny confusion, but When trying to express oneself clearly, decreasing confusion makes a big difference, even if it's a complicated concept. I know a lot of people struggle with that. And for me, it was kind of like, well, what's real? Like, if it's complicated, then it should be confusing. But then, really, more as a result of Harvard, yet again, not joking, Harvard, and Jeffrey Neal Katz, he helped me a lot with this, regardless if he intended to or not. I give him a lot of credit for this. And doing a very clear project where I realized, wow, it's complicated. And if I just keep it complicated, then we just won't understand. I won't understand. Others won't understand. We won't be able to use it well. But if I simplify it to the basic elements as many times in each area, each factor as necessary, then I will be able to understand it, verbalize it, communicate, and keep approximating that truth in ways that a complicated confusion just does not allow. And so I did that with him on a literature review. I worked hard on that, dedicated myself to that for 3 years. It was my primary thing. For 1 year, I got funding with the Doris Duke Clinical Research Foundation. It was the Doris Duke Clinical Research Fellowship founded by the Doris Duke Charitable Foundation. It's a foundation down in New York. And yeah, the outcome, turned out to be excellent. It was excellent. I was very happy and pleased with that outcome. And it's a process that I've been continuing to use. It's a tiring process, though. I'm just not laughing, but it's fun. And there's a lot of value. I can definitely assist, college students, medical students, even doctoral students or grad students in some level with that if they're interested. If they want that, if they can't get it from anybody else, and even grade school students and high school students who are already way ahead of the curve and want to delve into something. Like I can take my time with those kids. I don't need to force anything on them, and I don't need to speed them through, and I won't berate them at all. But I'll be commending them for being that far ahead, and also helping them to realize just take their time, don't rush. If they want to rush and their parents are for it and their academic institutions are helping them already, sure, go right ahead. But if they don't have all that support in place and they're just brilliant, smart kids, then they kind of need to take their time till they get into the proper environment, because I know environment makes a huge difference. I felt the difference when I was at Harvard, even compared to University of South Florida. Both are excellent institutions. There's no doubt about that. I got what I needed out of each of them. But when I got to Harvard, there was so much leeway because of the risk that they could take with the students who they selected, that I went for it even harder in every area possible and just absorbed all the knowledge possible in that 6-year period, which is another reason why I did not try to graduate in 4 years, and why I maximized my time there, especially since they only made me pay for 4 years. So it maximized my value. I don't know how many other medical students have taken that approach, but yeah, maximized my value, because they didn't charge me for 6 years, they only charged me for 4, and I got a clinical research fellowship, and so I got paid a salary for 1 year, and also got paid through other little bit of work that I did, like with Partners in Health, specifically with Kenneth Fox, who was, I think he's a pediatrician at the time. He was a pediatrician at Boston Medical Center, but also did some work with Partners in Health. But anyway, so yeah, I maximized all that. But the point is that, obviously this is on a little bit of a tangent, but, if those kids want some help, whether they be anywhere in the world or specifically here somewhere in Boston or the Back Bay area or any other little parts of Boston or Cambridge or greater Boston area or Massachusetts or wherever they're from, or even just here on vacation and just want somebody to sit and discuss whatever their ideas were, especially scientifically minded ideas, whether it be in the discipline of medicine, surgery, psychiatry, psychology on some level, what other, biology, clearly, chemistry, organic chemistry, physics, calculus and mathematics. I'm not really going to be too helpful in like engineering and architecture, as I don't really know the basics well enough for those 2 areas. But when it comes to like science, medicine, surgery, I do know, a lot of those basics, and I can be very be very helpful on that. And then the other area is also business. I did study some business, so I can definitely be helpful in business. I have my own approach. I don't know how it compares to all the huge, like, conservative corporations that run much of Earth, and the governments. But I do think it's, in line with most of that, because I am very conservative when it comes to that type of thinking. So in business, very conservative I am. In terms of science, very cutting edge as I can be. That's the goal for me in science, to get to the cutting edge on some things and really make some novel contributions. So I'm looking for very unique things to work on, either some very clear clarifications of muddied or confusing points that people have politicized or socialized rather than biologized or geneticized. Yeah, anyway, the big point, though, is just my editing process. I'm going to update this in my novels. I don't go back to redo things or revert things or change things. The problem with that approach is that was at that point in time, and now is a new point in time. So to go back and do that, it starts fictionalizing some parts because the time ends up being wrong. And from a scientific perspective, which is something I started understanding with Saeed Septi in his lab at Moffitt, which is just document it, write down if you need to add any notes or clarifying notes or addenda at the end, and then keep going, do the next one and the next one. Don't go back to delete, scratch out, remove. Whereas I would have done that based on, more my mother's approach, which was to write it, scratch it out, put the words here, there, lines here, stars, asterisks, all over the rotted place. Not stupid, something good to know, but just not the best approach, not the most intelligent approach, just not joking. You really have to chronologize things, chronological order. Forget about reverse chronological order. Just focus on chronology. Do it in a timeline and write it down. And when you do it that way, you will see your progression. You will document yourself. You will know what you do. I do that. I've been doing that. Even my CV is in that method. And if you all want to see a copy of my CV, just let me know. I'll send it out as an email to whoever's really interested. You can go and read it for yourself and see what I've done. I include all aspects of my life that I know will be important, period. And so that's on there. That is my curriculum vitae. But when it comes to editing, so pretty much my editing process is now just a correction of typos. So my books from now on will have that as opposed to editing. Maybe I'll include editing in there somewhere just to cue people in, but usually what I do is get over that crap and get to the point, which is just to put correction of typos. And if you can't figure out that that's editing, then holy shit, the problem's on you. And I just can't, perfectorize every single person. I don't know if this is called soliloquy or whatever that term is, but quite honestly, if it is, then that shit is normal. Because quite honestly, that shit is fun, makes sense, and those words are real, no matter what anybody thinks. And if it's just, quasi-academic people or real academic people who just didn't realize this, then they're having a problem because they're laboring for the ones who know. And quite honestly, if you're in that situation when you're trying to actually be an academic and intelligent person and a leader, then you're losing. I will say this, Donald Trump is a good example of that. I'm just not joking. He's definitely not an idiot. And he put together his ideas, did what he wanted to do throughout his lifetime in ways that, many of the other presidents didn't get to. And, it wasn't really just, his father, which I really give him a lot of credit for. Not saying that he didn't get the money, don't get me wrong. And yeah, money makes a difference on some level, but it's not the be-all, end-all, and it's not the most important factor. It is an indicator of a family that is taking their time and honing their skills and their research and taking positions of leadership and power. But ultimately, what I will say, wow, yeah, I learned a lot from following Donald Trump in ways that I hadn't learned from the other presidents, partly because I was in my 30s when he was going through the whole election thing. I'm not saying that I'm a Trumper, because, I don't really know the man personally. If I sat down, I don't know, I'm not really trying to facilitate all that either. I can go through many comparisons, which I might as well. I'll add to some value and add some content. For instance, if I use the easiest and probably best comparison for me, it would be more like Kanye West. There's just no doubt about that. Although Kanye West, he's a little dark in the eye, so there are a little bit of racial differences, but we're more in the similar categories. So, yeah, Kanye West supported him as much as he could, probably, saw some benefit, probably learned some things from him, similar to how I did from following on television. And yeah, met with him and all that and kind of fell apart from him on some level. I'm not really sure what the take is between Kanye West and Trump. I think there was some other guy, Trump trying to reach out to the non-white community, the black community, really. But pretty much it's like, yeah, it's a hard thing, for Kanye West, or say for me, because I know, I'm not, the Austrian, Swiss, Caucasian, German, Scandinavian, or British and Irish person that he really wants to see every day when he wakes up. Just not joking. Yeah, I know people like that can deny it, but I know that's the truth for most of them. I do know there's a small group that really want to see multiracial, non-white, and black people and enjoy it like a delicacy. I know I fall into that category with the races, not joking. I don't always just want to see white or always just want to see black or non-white or multiracial or Asian or there's times when I just want one from each group at a different time. And I enjoy it. So I enjoy all the races, don't get me wrong. But, yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's like a little blip on the screen or not even. It could be a nader. So, tid. My point is that, but anyway, I did learn a lot from Donald Trump. So I just want to give him a little kudos for that. And, maybe instead of focusing on pushing his wall through, but, I understand he's doing his thing and I'm pretty sure he's going to get his wall. I did a little bit start looking at the economics of this thing in the United States of America and knowing that the budget of, the fiscal budget of the United States of America annually is $4.4 trillion. $5.6 billion starts to be a little blip. I'm just not laughing. I mean, the magnitude of money or magnitude of resources in the U.S. is, on another level compared to Jamaica for many reasons. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure that, you all will go right ahead and build the wall eventually. If it doesn't happen during his presidency, then, maybe afterwards, just not sure how long it'll take. Maybe it won't be as high security as as some people want it to be. But I'm pretty sure, the Americans are quite capable of building a nice, delicate wall that has some security benefits, is very aesthetically pleasing, and would even enhance travel and vacation throughout North America, the Latin America, Central America, and the Caribbean. Well, not really the Caribbean, but Latin America, Central America, and South America. And then, yeah, I mean, if they did it that way and then, put it in a way where they could modify it to beef up security if they want to, when they have the money, the investment, and the human resources who are willing to really invest their time on that, I'm sure they could do that, over the next 200 years if they plan it properly. And I know that, the Caucasian American community have the ability for that. I know the Asian Americans will contribute. And I know that the black Americans, will also want to play a role. And obviously also the Hispanics. So I'm really not sure what the big issue is. It seems like it's more the Democrats in a political battle to make their cases and stake their claim for their political careers. Because from a financial aspect, I know they can do it. The only thing I will say, if he's going to do that and then decrease taxes, wow, then the country will have a little bit of an economical difficulty when it comes to like domestic abilities with regard to the middle class, lower middle class, and poor communities. People on, it's interesting. People on welfare usually don't have too many issues because the federal government and state governments usually don't cut that stuff. It's seen as mandatory expenditures and falls in that 60% of mandatory expenditures. But, I'm pretty sure the Americans do it, and I think it would be a great feat. I'm not joking. Rival the Great Wall of China. Do it that way. When people start looking at it from that regard, then, it's a win-win. But, you have to do it fiscally responsible. And I think, that's where I give Donald Trump some credit, even compared to George Walker Bush. George Walker, I think, had to learn some of that responsibility. I think George got probably more handed to him from his father. This might be considered an unfair comparison by some, or one that most don't want to hear, but as an outsider and learning about a lot of this from reading, talking to Americans, and hearing things on the news and seeing speeches, things on YouTube, even New York Times, Boston Globe, Washington Post, USA Today, Economist, and even some more conservative things, or white power things from time to time, things in Alabama even. I realized, yeah, I mean, these are real differences and these are my real perspectives, so I might as well share it since I'm pretty much, my plan is to be American. I mean, I'm not exactly going to be American, but, I'm pretty sure if I have a kid, my kid will be. So I might as well start putting it out there since this is the way here in the United States. As it is in Jamaica, but just, it's a little different than being, having Jamaica as the primary objective all the time. So anyway, my point though is that, yeah, so, I think as a result of that, Donald Trump, I think he probably did have kind of a little bit more of a struggle in some ways. Not that he was really, homeless. Maybe he was. I mean, he could have been homeless with a lot in his bank account. That's possible. He just didn't buy a home yet. But quite honest, I think as a result of that, yeah, he doesn't rush to his conclusions. So I'm pretty sure Donald Trump can figure this out, or maybe his aide will watch one of my videos. Maybe he'll get to see it, and maybe he will, start to figure out the rest of his financial plan for his wall, or for the wall of the United States of America. The other thing is, if it's really going to be a wall, then I think people kind of have to start moving on from it being Donald John Trump's wall, and now it has to be, a wall for the Americas. And, when it's that way and marketed that way, that will really attract more people who are a little more progressive, a little more liberal, who will eventually buy into all those ideas too, and realize it's not the worst thing, it's not a complete waste, it's definitely not the stupidest thing, and if done well, can be very aesthetically pleasing, enhance the beauty of all of the Americas, and as a result, really be something that, everybody in the Americas would want to partake in, because building something of that magnitude does not happen every single day, and it's, far greater than, in terms of work and planning, than just building a house. So anyway, there are some ideas. I wasn't planning to get into all that. I'll probably make sure that I put in the description and maybe in the title a few things to kind of make sure people can find this video and get to some of this content. As I wasn't really planning to go into all this, but these are the things that I've been thinking about, and this is kind of like how I am. There's a lot that I learn, a lot that I think. I kind of get my ideas together, and then kind of when I'm ready to formulate it and communicate it, I do it as clearly as possible, as clearly and concisely, and as in totality as possible, as is possible by me. So it just kind of ends up coming out when I'm ready, and so I just don't wait, especially when I have a good outlet. Especially when the ramifications of that can be, even poor decision making. If I were to just hold on to things and not find a great way to put it out there in the open, so that I can live a very open, forthright, and straightforward life, as I prefer that, because it has less complications. All right, well, I hope that helps. I do hope that, a lot of people watch, and maybe this will attract people to really get a sense of where I'm at and what I think and where I'm going. And, if you want to know a little bit about me, I'll be honest, if I compare myself to Barack, I'm not joking. Like, with Barack, when he became president, there was a little disappointment in me, not because he was non-white, but because, wow, I mean, that is something that I would have ascribed to be the first non-white president of the United States of America. I mean, the difficulty is that I'm not a citizen of the United States, and I was not born in the United States, so I know that that would never happen unless Congress changed that rule because they wanted me to be president of the United States. But, I know that I would be somewhere between Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and George W. Bush. And that's probably just because I've been exposed to them. I'm not joking. So I have to give them more credit for that than I can give to myself. But anyway, that's the truth. When it comes down to president status, I do have president status, but that's because of Foreign Heads T-shirt company at Bishop Moore High School, rotted. So I'm, still the president of that company. And we made a profit. So we did well. All right. Well, there it is. Basically, the point of this vlog, though, was really initially just to share that my editing process is really just a correction of typos that will be reflected in my novels from this point forward, as I'm not planning to go back to read through every little detail to edit it in ways that people want or don't want, because that just does not make sense to me. It just comes a waste. I am open to a voluntary editor who's well-honed and well-tuned. There is one girl who did edit some of my stuff, a couple samples, and she was excellent, but her price is just too expensive. Maybe I'll try to send this link to her too. But yeah, it was just too expensive. She's wanting like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 per book almost, or like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 for like 3 books. And the amount of novels that I'm pumping out already, because I have a lot to share. It just wouldn't make sense. I would just be spending too much trying to support an editor. So hence, I continue to write and I continue to publish. So I'm definitely a writer. I can be an editor, but I'm also definitely a publisher. So it's Adrian Dane Kenny, MD, Jamway Publishing Company of Jamway Conglomerate.